Okay then, welcome to Cooking with Rob. I believe some of you are interested in my doggy woof woof food. Really simple to make. I have got a recipe for it, but there's no set hard and fast rules on amounts and things like that. I just lob everything in. So this is what I make mine with. I'll just quickly run through the ingredients and then we'll have a walkthrough of making it, which is really easy. So first thing you want to start off with is your meat, and you want to be using mince for that. About 450 grams, so basically just a pack of mince. Now I use different minces every time I make this, just so it gives it a bit of variety. So on this occasion we are using pork mince, and this one's 5% fat. That's quite a low fat content. If you do want a higher fat content, as long as your dog's okay with that, then it's not going to do them any harm. In fact, it's going to do them good. Nothing wrong with a good bit of lard in your diet. So I'm using pork mince for this this batch, but you can use beef, you can use chicken, you can use turkey. I go to Aldi sometimes and they sell packs of mixed beef and pork at 450 grams for making spag bowls and things. So sometimes I use the mixed pork and beef. So it's entirely up to you what meat you use. Next ingredient is 6 cups of boiling water. So I've got the kettle boiling in the background. Well, when we say cups, I don't mean like a cup of tea. I'm on about a US measurement. Now I've got a measuring cup, and that is 1 cup. So just if you're not sure what a cup is in sort of quantity, just convert that on Google or something and it will tell you how much it is in millilitres. So we're going to be using 6 cups of water, and that's boiling water. Now that does work out at about 1.4 litres, so 1400 millilitres. Now when I do that, it can sometimes be a little bit sloppy, so I actually start with 1300 millilitres of water, because at least I can add a little bit more if I need to, if it's too dry. So between 1300 and 14 millilitres of boiling water. Okay, so that's your meat, that's your water. You then want 2 cups of brown rice. So don't use white rice, make sure it's high fibre brown rice. And again, I've got my measuring cup, so it's going to be 2 of those. So again, if you're unsure what a cup is in grams, then just look that up on Google and you'll know how much brown rice to actually use. You need a little bit of rosemary, and that's going to be a teaspoon of rosemary. That just gives it a little bit of flavour. And then the rest is basically veggies. Now all I do is get a bowl, so a cereal bowl as you can see, and I've bought some Cheap and Cheerful frozen veg from Sainsbury's, and that's got carrots, peas, beans and sweet corn in it, so that's a really good variety. And that makes about 3, 4 or 5, even 5 batches. And I don't weigh this out, I just put a nice sort of big cereal bowl full. The other thing I add as well are 2 to 3 sticks of celery and a whole red pepper. Okay, so they're your veggies. And then the final ingredient that you'll see at the end of the recipe, I have about 4 eggs. Now, if you haven't got 4 eggs, add 2 eggs, 3 eggs, 4 eggs. Sometimes I think I've even used a full pack of 6. It just depends how many you want to put in. But you'll see what happens with them at the end, because it's quite surprising, because we use not only the contents of the egg, but we use the eggshell as well, because that's full of calcium. So the eggshells are just as important as the eggs themselves. Now that's basically all your ingredients. So I'm going to pop that up on the screen for you so you can take a note of it. But it's basically mince, eggs, mixed veg, brown rice, rosemary, celery, red pepper. I think that's everything. So the kettle's just boiled, so let's get started. Now the first thing we're going to do is chop the celery and the red pepper. Now you can do this by hand, but it's going to take you forever, so I'm going to whiz it up in the food processor just here. So we'll put that in the food processor, so give me a minute. Okay, I've got the red pepper and the celery in the food processor. As I say, you can chop it by hand, but it's a bit of a chore. So if you've got a food processor, just lob that in and pulse it a bit. And you want your peppers and celery just to be finely diced like that. So really quick. And all I'm going to do then is add the frozen veg to that. So we'll just put all our veggies in. And that's our veggies. We'll wait in for later on. We don't need those just yet because they go into the last 5 minutes of cooking. Ton's now decided to play with his squeaky toys. So that's what the noise is in the background. So that is my veggies prepared. Okay, so in our pan, the first thing we're going to put in is our water. So we're going to start off with 1.3 litres of water. Boiling water, should I say. So that's my first half litre. You want yourself a nice big pan, by the way. Don't try and do it in a small one, a nice big pan. So that's my first half litre. One litre, and as I say, you need 300 mils more, or up to 400, but I'm going to put 300 in, and then I can add an extra 100 mil if I need it. Otherwise it can get quite sloppy and a little bit too moist. So that's my water. To the water we add our mince, uncooked. So at the moment this one's actually still frozen. Not sure if I've still got the paper on there, but we'll soon find out because it'll just start defrosting. So let me just turn that over. Yeah, it's still got the wrapping paper on. So we'll just melt that off. So don't worry about it. You can either use fresh mince or frozen, because the frozen mince is going to defrost in the boiling water. Okay. The next thing you want to add is 1 teaspoon of rosemary. So a teaspoon of rosemary, and that gives it a nice bit of flavour, the doggy woof woofs. And then the final thing that goes in is 2 cups of brown rice. So I'll add those in a second because I've just got to open the rice. So once again, I've just measured out 2 cups of brown rice. Looks quite a lot. Now remember, it's not just a cup that you've got in your kitchen. It's an actual measured US cup of brown rice. So again, if you're unsure what that is, do a conversion on Google into grams or whatever that is. And all I'm going to do is tip that into my boiling water. So all we've got in our pan now is 1.3 litres of boiling water, 450 grams of mince, a teaspoon of rosemary, and our brown rice. So what you want to do, bring that to, there's my paper. Must remember to take the paper off that I've left on. There we go, look, so I've got rid of that. And all we do with this mixture now, splash, is bring it to the boil. And once it comes to a boil, we're going to put a lid on, and we're just going to simmer that then for 20 minutes. Until the rice is cooked. Now keep your eye on it, okay? You don't want this all sticking to the bottom of the pan. So once you've got it to a simmer, this is going to take a while just to boil through. You want to break your meat up as well. So as you can see, I'm just breaking the meat up. Now because this was frozen, it's obviously reduced the temperature of my boiling water. So this is now going to take a while just to get back up to the boil. Once it gets back up to the boil, I'm going to put the lid on, I'm going to reduce the heat to a simmer, and we're going to simmer it for 20 minutes. Now I'm going to take the lid off every now and again and give it a bit of a stir, particularly towards the end when all the water's being absorbed by the rice, because if you're not careful, it will burn at the bottom and you'll start sticking to the pan, etc. So make sure you're on a low heat towards the back end. Okay. So I'm not going to stand here for the next 20 minutes doing that. I'm going to put it there, and we'll come back to that in 20 minutes when it's been simmering nicely. I'll just give you a quick look at what this is looking like. It's been bubbling away for about 5 or 10 minutes, so I'm just giving it a quick stir. Make sure you're breaking your meat up as well, because you don't want massive lumps of meat. With it being mince, obviously you just want it to be nice and fine, so any big lumps that are in there, just break them up. give it a good stir. As you can see, you've got a nice mixture now of the meat and rice that's cooking, and a whiff of rosemary. So we'll leave that for another 15 minutes or so. Okay, 20 minutes is up, and as you can see, everything's nicely cooked. Give it a stir, make sure it's not catching the bottom of the pan. Still got a bit of moistness in this, and that's what you want, because we're now going to add our veggies. So that great big pile of veggies that we had, which included all the frozen veg, the red pepper, celery, etc. That all gets put in now. Give it a good mix. And at this moment in time, this is suitable for human consumption. Nothing in here that a human couldn't eat. So it's doggy human food. So give all your veggies a good mix around to distribute them throughout your meat and rice mixture. And all we're going to do is put the lid back on. Leave it on a low simmer. Oh, that's hot. Good job I've got asbestos fingers. And that's just going to simmer away again now for another 5 minutes. So we'll come back to that in 5 minutes. Okay, that's the 5 minutes up. So all the veggies have now had their 5 minutes. They're cooked through. So all I'm going to do with this now, as you can see, that's the sort of consistency you want. All the rice is cooked. Looks a bit sloppy still at the moment. It's a bit moist, but that's because it's red hot and just been switched off. Because what we're going to do now, we're just going to put the lid on this and we're going to let it cool. Okay. So give it a good stir. If it's caught at the bottom of the pan or anything, just give it a good stir to get that up as well. So give it a good stir through. And I'm just going to leave this now with the lid on, red hot. Burn my fingers again, asbestos fingers. I'm just going to leave that on the cock a bit so that we can get some of the steam escaping. And we're just going to let that cool and well up in there. The rice will just absorb any moisture that's left. So we're going to leave that for a good few hours until it's cool. We don't want that warm at all, because the next thing we're going to add to that is the final thing, which is the eggs. And I'll show you how to add those once this is all cooled down. Okay, once your mixture's cooled, you'll see that it's lost all its moisture, so it's a lot firmer now. Your rice has swelled up. That's cooled down, so just give it a really good mix. Anything that's stuck to the bottom of your pan, just get that in there as well, because that's going to taste really nice. And now we're ready for the final step, and the final step is eggs. So all I've got here is a jug with 4 eggs in. 4 is usually enough. Just going to put the camera down, because what we're going to do now with those 4 eggs, I've got a hand blender, and all I'm going to do, crack the eggs, the hand blender, so shells and all, and then whiz it. Basically what we've made there is a scrambled egg mixture, but not one that a human would want to eat, even though you could actually. It's only eggshells. But the eggshells are all whizzed up in that, and I'll show you what to do with those next. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I've lightly greased my wok. So if you haven't got a wok, use a frying pan. I haven't put loads of fat in it, I've just got some kitchen towel and I've just lightly greased it, and I'm warming that through. And then once that's got to a temperature, all I'm going to do is add the egg mixture. Okay, so I've added the egg mixture, shells and all I'm going to do is let that cook through and scramble them. As you can see, it's just cooking around the edge of the wok, and as it's cooking, I'm just scrambling it. starting to cook through. You want it nice. You don't want soft scrambled eggs. You want it all cooked through. So not the best scrambled eggs that Gordon Ramsay would be cooking. You want it dry, cooked through totally, and then you're just going to chop all that egg up very finely. So I'm using this wok utensil, but you could just do it with whatever you've got, a knife. So you just want to chop it all through so it's all nice and fine. Takes off the heat, so I've turned the heat right off now. Just chopping it all the way through, any big lumps of egg. Now remember, you've got all the shells in here as well. That's where all your calcium is, for your dog's bones and teeth. Now a human could eat this, you wouldn't notice that the eggshells was in it. It might be a bit gritty, but there's nothing in here that's you couldn't eat as a person. And then once we've got our egg mixture, all we then do, we add that to our rice mixture. So I'm just going to put the camera down while we sort that out. So we get the egg mixture. We add that to our pan of rice, and now we just fold that through. So just fold it into your rice. I'm filming, Lisa. Lisa's shouting me in the garden. I'm filming. Take 2, director's cut. So I'm just going to stop that there, and I'll come back to it once I've folded it all through. Okay, now I've stirred all that through, that's that done. So just got to make sure it's cool now. And then what we do, we bag it up into freezer bags. And for Ton, because you're going to have to work this out for obviously your own dog, but Ton at the moment is on approximately, let me just check how much we're giving him. He's on approximately 390 grams of food a day. And what we do, we feed him 3 times a day. So throughout the day, we're giving him 3 lots of 130 grams. Now he's obviously got snacks and things on top of that and treats. But out of that 150 grams, what we do, we split that 130 grams at each meal time into 50 grams of this food, and the remaining one is, in fact I've got that wrong I think. No, I was right, 130 grams. He has 90 grams of kibble mixed with, 40 grams of this food. So we bag this up into 120 gram bags for freezing. And then throughout the day, we take that out to defrost, and we split it into 3 little sort of portions of 40 grams, and we add that to his 90 grams of kibble 3 times a day. So each feed we give him is 90 grams of kibble, 40 grams of this. Now you could give your dog all of that if you're not feeding them kibble. So I could give Tom 130 grams of this and see how he got on with it, but we've always just used it as like a topper to give his fish kibble, his salmon kibble, which has got other stuff in it as well, obviously. We just use this as a 40 gram topper and mix it through, and that's that. And from this, it usually makes about 2 weeks worth of food. So we usually get like 14 freezer bags full of 120 grams. So yeah, just work it out for your own dog, obviously based on the quantity of food that you're giving them. But yeah, well healthy, grains, brown rice, lots of veggies, proteins from the egg, calcium and everything from the eggshells, and all good stuff, all homemade, no additives or anything like that. So I hope you found that useful. I'm going to leave this now for Lisa to bag up, because that's the worst job there is, measuring it all out into the freezer bags and putting it into the bags and freezing it. So she can do that. I've done the hard work. I hope you enjoy. Bye. I've done the first week's worth of food, and what I use are just those self sort of adhesive at the top sandwich bags. So you can buy these from Sainsbury's and everywhere else, and they're just the sandwich bags. So these have got 140 to 150 grams of my food in. So there's 7 there, and all I do then is put them in another freezer bag, and I freeze those, and we take them out at night, put them in the fridge one at a time, and that lasts a week. So I'm just going to carry on bagging the next lot up.